If someone had told me that 84 years old, that I would be attending the 60th anniversary of Quad S meeting, I'd say, you're out of your mind. If they'd said that 10 years ago, I'd say, it should be 100 years old instead of just 60. And of course, if somebody told me now, I said, my God, it makes no sense that we're still fighting about the same things.
I joined Quad S about 30 years ago. My first Quad S conference was 1988 in San Francisco. I was the director of education for Planned Parenthood in Ithaca, New York at the time. And I presented on a community organizing approach to sexual literacy.
And I joined it because my major professor said it would be a good place to meet professionals, sex researchers, educators, and that I should avail myself of meeting those people.
I joined Quad S a long time ago when I was a graduate student, just starting out in sex research, when I was looking for a community of people doing the same kind of work.
As many academics, we're looking for a home, an academic home in which we can present our research. And Quad S was that place for me. And I found so much more, though, than just an academic home in which I could present my research. But I found a home in which there's a vision and an acceptance.
I was doing sexuality research, and my advisor, Janet Hyde, was a longtime member of Quad S, suggested I present here for the first time because it would be a welcoming environment for my research, and I immediately was hooked. I tend to be a little bit more introverted, and so I could easily attend a conference with hundreds of people and not talk to anyone. But it's difficult to do that at Quad S because people talk to you.
I joined because I heard that it was a fun conference, and I heard that they were friendly to students, and I found that to be very true. It was a great professional conference for me to get my scientist feet wet as a student.
I joined Quad S because it made sense as a sex researcher, as a professional home. And when I started coming to the conferences, it felt like I was with family. And so it was a great place not just to present my work, but also to network, make friends, and now I can't envision my professional life without it.
So Quad S, I mean, it really is my professional home. I kind of grew up in Quad S as an academic, and I come to Quad S meetings, and I develop new relationships that become, future collaborators. I've had mentors through Quad S. So when I went up for tenure, most of my letter writers were Quad S members.
It's introduced me to a lot of people in the field that I wouldn't have met otherwise. I've made so many connections that have resulted in professional accomplishments. I met Mike Smith, and he and I wrote a book together. It introduced me to Carlos Rodriguez Diaz. Hi, Carlos. And he and I published a lot of papers together too as a result. So,
like I said before, is family, and I always feel at home here. So I come back to Quad S. If I miss a meeting or two, I always know I'm going to come back and I'm going to see my friends.
Quad S has done so much for me in my career. It has allowed me to engage with content experts around the world. It has allowed for me to bring innovation and ideas out in ways that I hadn't really thought about. In 2001, two of my mentors, Connie McCaffrey and Bill Staten, said, "You've got to get involved as a student." And I understand now why that was so important, because I've grown from student throughout my career in ways to push work forward that I really had no idea would happen.
Quad S has done a tremendous amount for me in my early career. it nurtured me as a professional. I was at the medical school at Minnesota, and being a sexual scientist, you know, still back then you were kind of viewed with a bit of suspicion. And here at Quad S, you were really nurtured and really valued for what you were doing.
I would like to say, as is so often true, I'm standing on the shoulders of the giants who've gone before in Quad S, and I completely appreciate their contributions, from the first president to the current president, from the first editor of the journal to the current editor of the journal. You know, I wouldn't be here, the organization wouldn't be here without their hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. And so I think we owe a great debt to all of those people who've kept the organization going so that it could reach its 60th birthday.
Well, there have been changes in Quad S over the last 10 years. Some of it is internal, reorganization to not have the regions be so important, but to be a national organization, to be more stable financially, and I think to choose Mandy Peters as the director was a fantastic decision.
So in terms of the research being presented here, it covers a vast area of sexuality, and I think that's really wonderful because while I study one area, when I come here I get the opportunity to really see about a variety of areas, which really tells me that we are doing a better job of being diverse in the field and bringing in a multitude of different talks.
I've also seen Quad S become more rigorous in its research. The research that's presented at the Society, I've seen it really challenge the conventional wisdom and kind of push the envelope, and that excites me. It inspires me and it excites me.
I think we still live in a society where sexuality is stigmatized and sex researchers and sex educators are stigmatized. We certainly, in the early 2000s, we were under fire with abstinence-only sex education. We are clearly under fire today by various kinds of political personalities and viewpoints. So I think Quad S provides a very important resource to kind of keep us inspired, keep us going forward.
I think that one of the things that I would consider an accomplishment over that time is that the recognition that the Journal of Sex Research is getting. It's becoming, even every year, more and more submissions are coming to it, more and more. It's always been very rigorous, but I see the JSR rising in the ranks as a journal as being an accomplishment in part of Quad S.
I think, well, I know that the journal has become more rigorous. We have actively worked in the journal to do that, and we have confirmation that that is the case because the impact factor of the journal has increased over time. In terms of the organization, I think it has also become more rigorous. I think the quality of the presentations, especially the plenary sessions, have increased, and the scope or reach of the topics that are addressed.
The future of sexual science for me is really moving into understanding technological advances that are occurring within society and the way in which humans connect with each other.
I think the future of sex science is really going to be determined by what we as individual sex scientists and what the organization of Quad S as a whole decides to do right now.
There are going to be new people coming in, probably some graduate student out there right now who will eventually be the president of Quad S with that. So I think that's just inevitable. And I think there's a lot of good young researchers in the pipeline that bodes well for the future.
I think that Quad S's role is to continue what we've been doing for many, many years, and that is to push on the idea that studying sexuality is valued.
I think we're going to be turning to more and more qualitative research as we become more and more interested in community level experiences of sexuality and gender. So I think we'll probably see, or I hope that we will see, more interviews with different LGBTQ identified folks, looking at research across not just the binary genders, but the gender spectrum, continuing to deconstruct these normative notions about sexuality, gender, behavior, psychology, love, pleasure.
So when I think about the future of sexual science, it's balancing the ideas of rigorous research with the ideas of being ethically responsive to the communities that we study. Most of my research is around trans populations, so thinking about how can we incorporate both really strong academics and ethical responsibilities to the marginalized communities that we study.
Quad S is really at the future of sexual science, and we can't move forward as a field without this organization. And I think we're really taking steps to ensure that the future of sex science is bright by addressing the challenges that are facing the field. And I think that the leadership in our organization is on top of that and that they're up to the task. And I'm very optimistic about the future of the field.